You're watching CNN Headline News.
Closed captioning provided by Magic Belt.
Tropical storm Barry nears hurricane strength. West Nile virus hits northern Florida for a second time. And millionaire Steve Fawcett sets off on his 5th bid to circle the globe in a balloon. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Denise Dillon. Our top story, Tropical storm Barry is expected to grow into a hurricane before it makes landfall in Florida's panhandle overnight. The storm is traveling northward at 6 miles per hour. Maximum sustained winds are near 70 miles per hour with higher gusts. Hurricane warnings are posted from Pascagoula, Mississippi to Ocklawakanee River in Florida. Ed Lavandera has the latest.
Residents and tourists here in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, are waiting for Tropical Storm Barry to make landfall. The red danger flags have been put up along the beaches here, and the emergency crews have issued an evacuation advisory, which means that they're just letting people know that they might want to consider evacuating this part of Florida, but by no means is this a mandatory order. The storm surge is starting to make its way toward Fort Walton Beach. Waves are getting bigger, about 6 to 7 feet, but that's not discouraging a lot of people from staying away from the beach. A lot of tourists still trying to figure out whether or not they want to stay in this part of Florida. Elsewhere around town, people who own boats have been tying down their boats and getting ready for that. And we've only seen just a few number of people boarding up their homes and businesses.
People that have been here, been through them, like myself and all of us, we're getting prepared for it because you never know.
Tropical Storm Barry is expected to make landfall here at Fort Walton Beach sometime around the midnight or into the early Monday morning hours. A lot of the hotels here along the beachfront have decided to stay open, and a lot of tourists are staying around. There's even been about a dozen surfboarders just enjoying the waves, the larger than usual waves, and enjoying the last few hours before the storm, the brunt of the storm, hits this part of Florida. And of course, emergency crews and emergency staff have been set up throughout this part of the Gulf Coast region, and they're just waiting to see what will happen next. Ed Lavandera, CNN Headline News, Fort Walton Beach.
While Barry brings fear of heavy rain and flooding to Florida, parts of Kentucky and Tennessee are already dealing with those problems. Emergency officials say eastern Tennessee got about 6 to 9 inches of rain over the weekend. Roads, bridges, and a number of homes were washed out, making rescue efforts nearly impossible in some places. One rescue boat capsized, dumping 2 people into the floodwaters. No one was hurt. And in Kentucky, officials say one man was killed after he was swept away in his car. Officials there say 5 inches of rain fell Friday on grounds that were already soaked. Creeks spilled over their banks, but the waters have since receded. Justice Department officials reportedly called for disciplinary action against former FBI Director Louis Freeh after reviewing a probe of the Ruby Ridge siege. But the Washington Post says the former Assistant Attorney General rejected censuring Freeh. Stephen Colgate told the Associated Press that action was unnecessary because Freeh was a small part of it. Freeh was not in charge at the time of the shootings, but he did head the Bureau during the internal investigation later. 3 people were killed during the 11-day standoff in 1992 against separatist Randy Weaver. For the first time, New York's police department is reviewing 80 homicide cases in Brooklyn that were closed a decade ago by a single detective. An inquiry by the New York Daily News finds an unusually high number of cases closed, either because the suspect was dead, in prison for life on another charge, or not extraditable. 19 cases are raising serious questions and could be reopened. There are fears innocent people may have been sent to prison while the real killers were set free. The period coincided with the most murderous years in New York's history. Millionaire Steve Fawcett is making a 5th attempt to circle the globe in a balloon. His helium-filled Solo Spirit finally took off from the Outback at dawn. Unfavorable winds had delayed the launch a few hours. Now, if this attempt is successful, his trip should take about 15 days. There were no reported injuries after a train derailed in Magnolia, Texas today. One of the 20 cars that left the tracks was carrying benzene, which could be toxic if inhaled in large quantities. Authorities recommended that people living near the site evacuate. They say cleanup could take days. It's not clear why the Burlington Northern Santa Fe train derailed. 28 North Florida counties are on medical alert for the West Nile virus. The state started spraying last month when dead birds were found carrying the virus. It spreads when mosquitoes feed on infected birds and then bite humans. Florida and Georgia residents are urged to take precautions to prevent mosquito bites. 9 people in the New York area died from the virus in 1999. The West Nile causes flu-like illnesses in many people, but can be deadly. Another North Florida resident is hospitalized after being affected by the virus. Details about the 64-year-old woman's condition are not being released. Last month, a 73-year-old man was diagnosed with the virus. The dominant Southern phone company, Bell South, has reached a tentative contract agreement with the Communications Workers of America. The agreement averted a strike by 54,000 employees. Their 3-year contract expired midnight yesterday. The contract includes basic wage increases of 13% over the next 3 years and improved benefits. It covers technicians, operators, customer service, and sales representatives. Bell South says the contract sets new standards for customer representatives and call center operations. The agreement has to be ratified by union members. Coming up, the ordeal is over for 13 hostages held by Filipino rebels. We'll have the details after the break.
This is CNN Headline News.
The Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat is sending letters to President Bush and other world leaders. He's asking them to intervene in the escalating conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. Fighting in the region escalated this weekend. In Tel Aviv, a Palestinian gunman opened fire from his car on a group of soldiers outside the defense ministry. About 10 people were hurt. The soldiers returned fire, killing the gunman. Hours later, Israeli helicopters launched a missile attack in the West Bank. The missile struck a car and killed an activist with the Muslim group Hamas. Israel's army claims the man was a senior terrorist responsible for a number of bombings and shootings. Hamas called the attack an Israeli assassination. 13 Filipino hostages captured by a Muslim separatist group are now free. They were found by military forces after being abandoned by their captors, the Abu Sayyaf rebels. Troops also found the headless body of a male hostage. The hostages recovered today were a part of a group of 26 captives taken from a coconut plantation on Thursday. Military officials say there was no fighting between troops and the rebels. Checking other news around the world, a possible breakthrough today in Macedonia. European Union Security Chief Javier Solana has brokered a deal between Macedonia's warring factions. It's a power-sharing plan governing the country's police. That was a major sticking point between majority Macedonians and ethnic Albanian rebels. The two sides have been fighting since February. Dozens of Macedonians have been killed. Bolivia will soon get a new president. Current leader Hugo Banzer has returned home to resign from office. He had visited the United States to receive lung and liver cancer treatment. He's stepping down tomorrow. The vice president will assume power. And remembering the victims of war in Bosnia. Families of about 250 people killed by Bosnian Serbs in the early stages of the war have reburied their loved ones. Hundreds of Muslims attended a religious ceremony for those found in a mass grave east of Sarajevo. It's estimated that about 200,000 people were killed in the Bosnian War. Officials say more than 20,000 are missing and presumed dead. And we'll have much more news coming up in just a moment. Stay with us.
This is CNN Headline News.
Today at IBM.com, Leon and Mike from corporate are here to talk about the incredibly powerful IBM NetVista A60.
This computer is so great, you could alter the trajectory of interstellar spacecraft.
Oh, we can't say that legally.
It has a super powerful Intel Pentium 4 processor, 1.3 gigahertz, 20 gig hard drive, 128 megs of RAM, $10.99. You could predict the weather years in advance with pinpoint accuracy and decode the human genome with this bad boy.
Leon.
Defeat a Russian chess champion, which is not...
Leon.
The NetVista A60 is perfect for power-hungry small businesses. It's backed by IBM with an Intel Pentium 4 processor, so it can run multiple business apps at once. Enhanced multimedia, 3D collaboration, voice recognition software.
You could clone the girl who sat behind you in homeroom.
Leon.
Order this seriously fast NetVista A60 now for $10.99, and we can ship it out to you free.
Hey, Mike, just let's loosen the tie a little bit. You know what I mean, buddy?
It's not me. It's the legal system.
For the second time in less than a month, America West Airlines sent children traveling alone on the wrong connecting flight. Two sisters were supposed to arrive in San Diego, but ended up 100 miles northwest at Ontario International Airport. They finally arrived in San Diego nearly 5 hours later than planned. Last month, an 11-year-old traveling by herself was mistakenly put on an America West flight to Orlando instead of Detroit. And now here's a look at the day's highlights and scores in Headline Sports.
Our event, CNN Headline Sports. 4 new names were added to the honor roll that is the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. Former Negro League pitcher Hilton Smith, outfielders Dave Winfield and Kirby Puckett, and second baseman Bill Mazeroski are now immortalized for future generations. Winfield, I think, put it best.
All I can say is that had I known that I was going to be up here one day, I sure would have saved all my rookie baseball cards.
Does Manny Ramirez take requests these days? Here's your answer. Manny sent his 34th of the year out going to left for a 2-0 Boston lead as they went on to trample Texas 6-3. Carl Everett got a little up close and personal with umpire Tim Wilkie. After a difference in opinion on the strike zone, Everett was ejected. Sure, that's not the last you'll hear about it. It's not a beanie baby. It's not a bobblehead. It's a beanie bopper. Whatever they are, they didn't help the Yankees against Anaheim. Ted Lilly threw at Scott Spezio's head after Derek Jeter was plunked an inning earlier. Lilly was ejected, pinstripes dejected after a 4-3 loss. Is Jim Edmonds good or what? Watch him rob Ryan Dempster of a base knock. That's what Edmonds does. He does it again to Dave Berg later, but his attempt to double up the runner at first is, well, who's on first? Kevin Millar scored. Marlins clipped the Cardinals 5-3. Leon, this effort's for you. If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. Just like this fan did. A towering fly ball becomes a story for years after this catch. Barbara and Carol, women have the ability to overcome anything. Just ask Sairi Pak, who overcame a 4-shot deficit and stormed back to claim her 3rd major championship, the British Women's Open. If she can win the Nabisco in the next 3 years, Kari Webb will no longer be the youngest woman to win the career Grand Slam.
It was always going to be one of the good players, well, one of the better ball strikers probably that was going to come to the fore today, and Sairi's the one that's done it.
Terry, pay close attention now because I probably won't get a chance to say this again. Golf's frustrating for me, but how about Ian Woosnam? Fired his caddy Sunday after he overslept for his morning tee time at the Scandinavian Masters. David Byrne was also involved in Woosy's 2-stroke penalty when he failed to make sure he had the regulation amount of clubs at last month's British Open. Brian Maravant, CNN Headline Sports.
Coming up, the 3-time Tour de France champion is still touring and getting a hero's welcome. We'll have details.
This is CNN Headline News.
The internet is faster because of us.
The internet is more reliable because of us.
The internet is growing because of us.
The internet is more exciting because of us.
The internet goes everywhere because of us.
The internet is better because of us.
Delivering the most content from the world's biggest network, Akamai.
This is Jessica on Tuesday afternoon.
Since the afternoon this morning.
This is Jessica's trust fund.
The numbers are still
on Tuesday afternoon. Because her parents work with a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch.
I got 62%.
Are you listening here?
Who helps them create a comprehensive plan for Jessica's education, as well as their retirement and a second home. So Jessica's parents can focus on her goals, while their money does the same.
CNN presents. It started as a gentleman's race, but quickly turned into a harrowing tale of hurricane-force winds and 100-foot waves. When it was over, men would be dead, boats would be lost, and those who survived would be forever haunted. CNN presents The Proving Ground, tonight, 10 Eastern on CNN.
A car crash allegedly involving a drunk police officer leaves 4 family members dead in New York. Hello, I'm Denise Dillon. We'll have more on that story in just a moment. First, Florida has its second human case of West Nile virus. Both of the confirmed cases are in Madison County, that's in northern Florida. The latest victim is a 64-year-old woman. Health officials say she's being treated for encephalitis brought on by the mosquito-borne virus. The first confirmed case was a 73-year-old man who's been in the hospital since last month. 28 Florida counties are on alert for the virus. A New York City police officer faces criminal charges after a traffic accident that killed 4 members of a family, including a pregnant woman. Police say Joseph Gray was driving drunk when his car hit the 3 as they were crossing a street in Brooklyn last night. Maria Herrera, who is 8 months pregnant, and her 4-year-old son died in the hospital. Her baby boy was delivered alive but died soon afterward. Her 16-year-old sister died at the scene. Gray was charged with driving while intoxicated. He's been suspended from the force. Gray was off duty at the time. Southern Christian Leadership Conference leaders say controversy over Martin Luther King III's leadership skills won't overshadow the group's convention in Montgomery, Alabama this week. King is the SCLC's 4th president. He has been called an ineffective, absent leader by some board members. They also accuse him of being unable to raise money. SCLC officials say they plan to focus on their agenda of addressing racial profiling, police brutality, and reparation for slavery. It's not there yet, but forecasters are still expecting Tropical Storm Barry to reach hurricane status tonight. They say Barry could hit land after midnight somewhere between Pensacola and Apalachicola in the Florida Panhandle. At last word, its sustained winds remain at 70 miles per hour, just below hurricane status. Florida residents are on alert and many are preparing for the worst. Hurricane warnings remain in effect from Pascagoula, Mississippi to the Ocklawahamie River in Florida. So will Barry bring rain your way, or will it be sunny skies? Find out next in the nation's extended weather forecast.
Flooding rainfall, possibly some tornadoes, and very gusty winds across the deep south this evening and into tomorrow. Tropical Storm Barry, 70-mile-per-hour winds moving to the north. Going to make a lot of rain from Arkansas back into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and North Florida. Even some severe weather possible throughout the day tomorrow and even into your Tuesday and Wednesday. Temperatures very warm in the Central Plains for today and for tomorrow. 90s and 100s all the way from Nebraska down into parts of Texas. For your Tuesday, rain showers develop from Virginia right on back to the Tennessee Valley into Arkansas, Louisiana, all part of Barry. Some of those storms, again, could be severe throughout the late afternoon. This is meteorologist Chad Myers. If you need more weather, go to CNN.com.
So, where would 150 people with a mutual fascination for toothpick holders go? Well, of course, to the 26th annual convention of the National Toothpick Holder Collectors Society. They're gathering in Nashua, New Hampshire this week with their crystal, glass, and porcelain toothpick holders. Some cost about $5, others more than $300. Collectors say toothpick holders were commonplace a century ago when picking one's teeth in public was socially acceptable. Amsterdam's main canal was crowded with boats taking part in the city's annual Gay Canal Parade. 75 boats floated in a colorful and noisy convoy in yesterday's grand finale of the 4-day festival. Organizers say they hope the event helps promote acceptance of the gay community. A British yachting tradition is underway. 1,000 boats of all shapes and sizes are taking part in this year's Cows Week. The annual boating event began in 1812. During the first day of competition, the race for the Queen's Cup went to skipper Michael White and his boat On a High. U.S. cycling fans are pumped up by Lance Armstrong's 3rd consecutive win of the Tour de France. But as Molly Smith of our affiliate KVUE reports, nowhere is he more celebrated than Austin, Texas.
Lance is a stud. I think he's a great athlete, so that's why we're here.
5:30, gates open, and a flood of people pour into Auditorium Shores with one thing on their mind.
He's just a total inspiration.
Lance is basically a model in that he's been able to overcome a kind of adversity that is certainly worse than anything I've ever faced.
But before Lance made his first appearance, the sea of people enjoyed an impromptu concert with some of Austin's finest musicians. The music held the crowds together as everybody gave well wishes to Austin's most famous athlete.
Good job. You're a hero. Good luck on the next 3 Tour de France's.
I want to physically see him.
So when Lance hit the stage, the crowds went wild. Austin City Mayor joined in and declared August 4th official Lance Day in the city. The governor wasn't going to let this moment slip, so he declared August 4th Lance Day for the entire state, sending these crowds into a fit of excitement.
It's nice to be back in America. And it's nice to be back in Texas. But damn, it's nice to be back in Austin. Seriously.
The fireworks went off and Double Trouble rounded out the evening, sending everyone on a safe journey home.
We love you. What's that?
There were no reported injuries after a train derailed in Magnolia, Texas today. One of the 20 cars that left the tracks was carrying benzene, which could be toxic if inhaled in large quantities. Authorities recommended that people living near the site evacuate. They say cleanup could take days. It's not clear why the Burlington Northern Santa Fe train derailed. More employers are checking on whether workers are telling the truth when they blame their tardiness on traffic jams. A California newspaper says the California Highway Patrol got almost 800 requests for traffic report records this year. The biggest customers are Pacific Bell, Verizon Communications, and some airlines. There's no evidence of a traffic jam about 1/3 of the time. But one Pacific Bell employee who asked for 9 traffic reports says they saved her from losing her job. Local news is coming up next for some of you, and for those sticking around, Angelina Jolie and Antonio Banderas turn up the steam in Original Sin.
You have to find for yourself. Take me home now.
You have no shame at all. This is CNN Headline News.
Now's the best time to join America Online.
Plug it in and you go.
Because now you can try AOL and get our best offer ever. 1,000 hours of AOL free for 45 days. You don't need a credit card. Call 1-877-265-0200 to get everything AOL offers.
You've got mail.
I've got mail. I love when an instant message pops up.
Customer service is always there to help.
To get online in minutes plus 1,000 free hours, call 1-877-265-0200. Operators are standing by.
If we could do it, anyone can.
America Online. So easy to use, no wonder it's #1.
We're changing everything.
To bring you a new network that delivers real news, real fast.
A network that's immediate and always up to date.
A network that's accessible. We're always here when you need us.
News, weather, business, sports, and more. Just that fast.
On August 6th, we're changing everything but our name.
It would certainly be interesting to act in a period piece set in Cuba where clothes are shed everywhere. The stars of Original Sin say while it was fun, it was really hard work. Paul Verkaman has more.
Do you believe that pleasure can ever be sinful?
In Original Sin, Angelina Jolie as a sultry con woman turns Cuba into Temptation Island. Jolie's character spins lies as big as her lips.
There's this whole different layers to this character. In the beginning, you meet certain layers, and you later discover other things. And it seems like they've just announced that she's not perfect.
That's my wife. Damn it!
Antonio Banderas plays a plantation owner who gets hot and bothered by his new bride.
He doesn't know really what he's getting into, and love is as relationship is can be very toxic. It can be very damaging sometimes.
And there's so much sex, this movie almost got an NC-17 rating instead of R. The more Jolie uncovered, the more her 9 tattoos had to be covered up with makeup, except for 3 clustered below the horizon. One mentions husband Billy Bob Thornton.
Anytime I have to do any kind of romantic scene, we don't cover any of these here. I have a big black cross and a quote and my husband's name, and so just in case anybody even thinks about attempting to shoot me below the waist in the front, they can't.
Well, it's a good reminder for someone like Antonio as you're in the midst of a love scene to not get too carried away, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't think we had to worry about that. You won't meet a man more in love with his wife.
As in Melanie Griffith.
Also, she knew that I am a professional and that I am going to come back home with her, which is the real thing.
But she also knows you're an actor, and obviously with these scenes there wasn't the quick cutaway and then the zoom out the window type thing. I mean, you played it for all it's worth, I would imagine.
Yeah, but not real. It's all pretending. But yes, we were playing with our bodies in front of the camera, and that is against what many people may think. Is not that fun because you are working. You're not doing something for yourself. You're doing something for people that are going to watch the movie.
Some viewers might argue Banderas and Jolie make Original Sinning look fun.
Take me home now.
Paul Verkaman, CNN Entertainment News, Hollywood.
It wasn't hard to spot a handcuffed man on the run from police in Los Angeles. He was naked, wearing only a sweatshirt and black socks. Police say the 25-year-old escaped while being transported from one jail to another. He lost his pants while rolling down an embankment. Two terriers have taken their relationship to the next level. They tied the knot in a garden ceremony Saturday. She wore a white veil, and the wedding cake was made out of biscuits and peanut butter. Their owners are good friends, and eventually, Em and Whiskers grew close. Coming up, the latest on Barry. I'm Denise Dillon, and this is CNN Headline News.
I give you all the keys to his house, the keys to his heart. You will have to find for yourself.
Take me home now.
You have no shame at all.
Do you believe that pleasure can ever be sinful?
This is your home now.
This is CNN Headline News.